Y'all are tuned in to the network where we believe that your network is your net worth. I got somebody extremely special today, y'all. I hope y'all are out there. I hope somebody's listening. Join the conversation today, y'all. We're going to be talking about mastering mindset today, y'all. We got the Lucky Mental Academy. Let's get it. Your network is your net worth. It's all about the relationship. Today, we're going to be talking about the relationship with ourselves, though. Got my man, Coach Lucky. What is going on, everybody? I am super excited today. I got somebody really special that I can't wait to introduce to the rest of the world. And yesterday, me and Josh Buckner from Philadelphia Real Producers were talking about building your brand online and the opportunities and possibilities by just putting yourself out there and connecting with other like-minded individuals, right? And so the person who I'm about to present to you, I only had one conversation with, and that was this weekend, just to prepare to tap in real quick. But it was a lead up, it was a build up because his let me not get confused here. Her significant other, right? Because I have a business partner in California. We have a e-commerce store together. It's called Protect Your Peace. She is a Shopify expert, and she helps entrepreneurs take their ideas and monetize them through Shopify, right? So we have had a relationship, and she has been telling me about the person who keeps her on the straight and narrow, thinking positive. Oh, I got the countdown on. Because, as entrepreneurs, we go through things. And when you have somebody that you can tap in with and they could at least get you in the right direction, help you reset, it's very, very important. So leading up to this, I've heard so many great things about Coach Lucky and just his desire to help others see the greatness inside of themselves. And when I was telling him a little bit about the network and what we do on the show, it's all about building the relationships, right? It's all about connecting with others. But Coach Lucky, he gave me this, right? Today, we're going to talk about the relationship with ourselves, right? So I want to introduce everyone to Coach Lucky. What's going on, Coach Lucky? How you doing, man? Thank you so much for joining us today and coming on the show. I really appreciate it, man. We're here, man. We're here. Can you say what's up to the people and introduce yourself?
I guess you can say a coach. That's what everyone calls it. I really consider myself more of a helper. I help people become whatever they need to be in order to be what they want. I help people be what they want. I don't care what it is you want. I just help you become the person who has it. Right. So it's nice to meet everyone. I look forward to sharing some information here with Justin, whom I've heard a lot about, like he said, from my significant other. And so I'm excited, man. Um, Hello to everyone out there on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast. And like you said this weekend, man, let's get it.
If you don't mind, man, can you drop that one more time because the audio went out for like the first 5 seconds. So just reintroduce yourself to the people. Go ahead, Coach Lucky.
Sure, man. My name is Lucky. Some people call me Coach Lucky. Basically, what I do is I help people. I help people be what they want to be. I don't care what you want. I just help you become the person who has it, or who is it, or who's doing it. So that's what I do. People call it coaching. I really consider it helping because I'm just helping you to be what you want to be. And everybody has their own dreams and desires, and my job is to help you become the person who is living that.
And Coach Lucky, what kind of clients have you worked with in the past? Can you tell our audience a little bit about the type of people that you've worked with?
Oh man, I work with everyone under the sun. I started off. I'm a former athlete myself, playing Division I basketball and things like that. And so I started off with athletes, and basically I was working with them on their physical basketball skills. And as a result, over time, I started realizing that the things they wanted to do physically, they were not capable of doing because they didn't mentally see themselves as the person who could. So they were fighting this internal battle that they really thought was external, but it was really internal. So I started working with athletes and helping them to learn how to change their self concept to become the person who could shoot that way, dribble that way, or perform the physical, endeavors that they wanted to perform. Then that kind of led me into their friends and family members. Like, well, I have a nephew. He doesn't play sports, but I want him to be a better student, or a better son to my brother or to my sister. And I started working with that. And then I started getting into business people. I started getting into everything was always referral, word of mouth. I never had a business. I never had a business card, really. I never had a website. I didn't have social media. I just started that like 3 weeks ago on her recommendation. But I never had my own personal social media. It was always word of mouth. I've been doing this now, man, for probably about 10 years. I would say just this part of it. I've been doing basketball coaching training for over 20, but essentially it's all the same. Success is all the same. Business is all the same. As far as any business you have, anything you want to be or do or have, you want to be successful. And so I basically have worked with athletes, business people. I've worked with couples. They call it marriage counseling. But it's just people who come to me to want to learn how to live a different life by changing the way they think. So any person you can think of on the planet, I've worked with them. Real estate agents. My mom was one, is one. She doesn't do it like the majority of the time now. She just has her license with Coldwell Banker still. But when I was in sixth grade, she was at Merrill Lynch as a broker and a real estate agent and stuff like that. So I mean, I work with doctors, lawyers, parents, kids, teams, everything.
Man, I really appreciate that. And man, that was just in that was some meat. But I appreciate you coming on today, because even this new responsibility and the task that I was tasked with, this new thing that I walked into, becoming the marketing director for a a brokerage, right? The brokerage that I hang my license with as a real estate agent. So this is going to be going to all of our agents. We have about 250 agents. And right now, Coach Lucky, I'm not sure if you know what's going on. Like, you know, they're talking about banking is collapsing, the real estate market, and that leaves, a lot of agents, and specifically the ones that I'm worried about within our family over here, it's leaving a lot of people trouble, right? And they don't know how to excel and to get past wherever we're at. Can you talk a little bit about how can we master our mindset for the rest of this year in the midst of all these circumstances and situations?
So that's a great question. The reason we feel okay, almost think about it like investing. My youngest brother is a wealth management person. So if I wanted to invest some money and I wanted to know where to invest it, how to invest it to get the greatest return, I would go to him because that's not really my thing. So my point is that wherever I invest is where I'm going to get the return from. With whom I invest is who I'm going to get the return from. So what happens is that when we invest in the world, then we are expecting our return to come from the world. And when we invest in the world and the world says, I'm collapsing, or I don't have it, or there's a crisis, or a recession, or a depression, well, that's worrisome and bothersome. Why? Because we put our investment there. And now where we put our money, we feel like it's going to collapse, or they're telling us it's going to collapse. So one of the first things I try to get people to understand is that where you invest, that's where your return is going to come from. If you learn how to invest in yourself, meaning if you learn how to create a consciousness of success, that consciousness must be expressed. Meaning, if you think of where everything in the world comes from, even in your body, sweat comes from the inside out. Tears come from the inside out. You have to inhale before you speak in order to exhale. Everything starts inward first. Your height starts inward first. Puberty starts inward first. The hair on your head starts from the inside out. Everything starts on the inside out. And what we have been conditioned to do is look outside in. So as a result, it's like a math problem. If you remember early math, they always talked about like the order of operations. You can have all the numbers together, but if you put them in the wrong order, you won't get the right answer. And so people feel stress and panic and fear because they're looking outward. They're looking for someone else to be their salvation, to be their rock, to be their answer. And as a result, when that person says, I ain't got it, or I can't do it, well, you're like, shoot, man, I didn't put my last $1,000 with you. I have put my faith with you. And now you're telling me you can't do it, or I ain't got it, so to speak, right? And so that is where I try to get people to change their focus. When you invest in yourself, when you start to spend time with yourself, when you start to develop the self of you, it when you go inward, it will express itself outwardly. All of when no matter who you invest with or what you want, we'll take it to a person. But even if that person is, even if that person can't do it, or let's say that person could do it, but they retired, you still have a desire. So your desire doesn't go. So what do you do with that desire if that person that you're taking it to is no longer there? So what I try to get people to do is say, don't get rid of your desire. Just make sure that you go within yourself first. Look inward first. to see your success, to see your peace, to see your joy. And as a result of that, your higher self will go out and find, your consciousness will go out and find the right person that will physically be able to handle this request. Because as much as we try to network and as much as we try to know the right person, we don't really know who the right person is. Take Sam Bankman-Fried. Everybody thought he was the right person for a long time, right? Take the lady on, matter of fact, I have this, sorry to cut it off. Like Sam Bankman-Fried, he's on the front of Forbes. This guy 2 months ago, 3 months ago, a year ago was on the front of Forbes. Now he's on the run or been caught and he's in jail. But my point is that when we look to people to try to satisfy us or place our security in, even the top financial magazines in the world will tell you this guy is it. Now, what do you do with this information a year later? Who is this person now? So when we're networking and trying to place our peace, our joy, and our success in something outside of ourselves first, it will always lead us into trouble, whether it's the wrong person or the stress or the fear or the anxiety, because our outcomes are world based. They're outside of us and we have no control in our own lives. So the first thing I get people to do is learn how to look inward in order to express that outward.
Man, what happens if the battle that's going on is inward? How do we like, I know for me, for instance, I feel like I took 1 year this last year, and I did not worry about what anybody else said, anybody else did, anybody else suggested. I completely, of course, with accountability partners such as your significant other, Veronica. Shout out to her. She was a rock for me, right? She was a
Mm-hmm.
rock because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who I could trust.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get in to like I feel like everything is preference, right? And then when you don't prefer to do something like the same way as somebody else, or you don't agree with somebody else, it could, and then you don't know how to handle it internally, it could cause
Mm-hmm.
problems, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I guess what I'm trying to ask is like, how can we find someone such as yourself, such as an accountability partner like Veronica? How can we find those people to strengthen our foundation?
Great question. And it's almost that's why I work with so many different types of people, because no matter what area of life you're in, the answer is the same. Your desire is the same. You want to be successful. You want to achieve something, whether it's peace of mind, whether it's wealth, whether it's health. You want to achieve something. So the outcome, even though it looks different, the outcome is the same. You want to succeed. You want to accomplish what you set out to. So when you say, okay, well, how do I find the right person? Well, you find the right person. First, you find the right person. That person is outside of you. That means they're always second. So there has to be a first. So the first is you. So if the first is you, how do you do that? Well, you now do that by saying, okay, let's say I want to find a good doctor. Well, a good doctor would be somebody that you would want to keep your health a certain way or to make you healthy or keep you healthy. So then the first way you would do that is say, okay, I now assume myself to be healthy. I am now healthy. I'm now calling myself, I'm now conditioning my awareness, my consciousness to be this thing. When I assume if I assume I'm a dancer, then that's reflected in my life. I go to find clubs or I go dance at bars or wherever it is, I dance. Whatever I assume myself to be must be reflected outside of me. My assumption is not physical, but my what I do is physical. But what I do is always matching what I believe or perceive myself to be. So the first thing you do is you decide what you want to be. And when you say, okay, let's just say I want to be safe or I want to be secure. So whatever that means to me, I assume I am. By assuming I am, my consciousness is now saying, this is what I believe myself to be. So let me find the physical reflection of that. When you look in the mirror, you see yourself. When you consciously become something, the world becomes a mirror to you. It's going to start reflecting back what you believe yourself to be, right? So it's going to lead you right to the person who is and away from the person who isn't. But not because you knew who they were as a conscious person. Your subconscious mind knows what this person is. They know if this person is a liar. They know if this person is not really what they say they are. There's no way you and I can do that. That's why we spend so much time trying to vet people and figure it out. But like I said, This person right here, how many people vetted him? Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, said he spent time with him, his family, and still, and he's on here giving everyone advice, and he got duped by somebody a third of his age, right? So what we're looking at isn't all that glitters isn't gold. And so our conscious mind has a limit. It's only designed to show us what we see. It's like a scoreboard. It doesn't tell you what the score is going to be. It doesn't tell you who scored first. It's not going to tell you who scored last. It's not going to tell you what the next play is going to be. It's just telling you what is. So the players determine the action. It means your imagination, what you're assuming yourself to be, is the action. And your life is the scoreboard showing you what you're imagining. So when you imagine yourself to be something, you're now, that imagination, that true part of yourself is going to find the physical reflection of it. It's going to find that person who's the best for you to be, to have your brand. It's going to find the best business partner for you. It's going to find, because it's reflecting you. What's happening is we feel unsafe and we try to find safety in someone else. And as a
Sheesh.
result, that's how, that is
Sheesh.
how the opposite happens, right? So yes, always starts with you first. Always.
Jeez. Man. Man. Oh man. Can let me ask you this, right? Because this is something like, and what I try to do is like use personal things, to try to really be transparent and really help somebody else out, right? But
Yes,
do
sir.
you think that the reason why people don't become successful is because they don't believe it and they don't see it and they don't visualize it?
Well, how did anything come? Let me ask you a question. How did the computer or the phone or the laptop you're using right now, that didn't exist? How did it become into physical being? Right? Everything that we use physically was first a thought. If you can't think it, how do you create it? If you don't believe it's going to be something, how does it become it? Because you have to make it. The phone didn't make itself. The house doesn't make itself. The car doesn't make itself, right? So the imaginer, the dreamer, the person who is because life is lived here in the mind, it's expressed in the body. So when we are creating, we're really creating in the mind. We are assembling with our hands, with our physical body. But the physical body isn't creating anything. The mind creates, the body assembles, right? So
Mm.
what I'm saying to you is that if everything that's physical was first a thought, if a person cannot see themselves successful, how could they express it? If a person is not sick, how do or is not sick, how do they have the flu? Don't you have to be sick before you have the flu? Meaning, don't you have to be sick in order to express sickness? You have to have something before you can express it. You have to have the thought of health in your mind, the thought of peace in your mind, the thought of success in your mind in order to express it. What's happening is we're going outside thinking that we can buy it, just like thinking
Mm.
like we know who this person is or we know what this thing is. We're trying to express something we aren't. And it doesn't work like that. It's almost like you renting a house, but it's not yours. You leasing a car, it's not yours. What we do here is promote ownership. You can only own by being, by your name being on the deed or your name being on the car and it paid off. You can only own by being. You can't own by wishing. You can't own by hoping. That's leasing, that's renting. That may just be you riding through the neighborhood looking at homes that aren't yours. You have to be in order to become, right? So the first thing is always in your mind. If you can see yourself successful, you can be. This is not positive thinking. This is not motivational speaking. There is no such thing as positive thinking. There's thinking, and that's it. If you, what you thought, you now are creating. And if you don't like what you created by your thought, you call it negative. If you thought and you created and you like what you created, you call it positive. But it's thought just the same, right? When you're driving a car and you turn right, or you drive a car and you turn left, they still call it driving. They don't say right driving or left driving. They say driving, right? So when you're thinking, what are you thinking? What are you entertaining? What are you believing and feeling to be true? That is the experience that you're bringing physically into your world, because that's how creation is made. So if you can't see yourself successful, then you cannot have the physical reflection of success. You can't, it doesn't work like that, right? So
How how do we reprogram our mind, right? Because I feel like, man, what you're saying is there's a lot of people right now that they're just wired wrong, they're programmed wrong. It might not be
yeah.
their fault, right? but now we
Yes.
have all these limiting beliefs, right?
Yeah.
How do we cross over and get to the next level, to the next step? Because I know for me, and it's like I've experienced it. I don't know how to verbalize it, but I know that there was a time where I wasn't successful because I didn't believe it and see it in myself. I didn't
Hmm.
walk like I was successful. My
Hmm.
handshake wasn't like I was successful. I didn't
Hmm.
dress like I was successful.
Hmm.
And it took me being around like a lot of people to, to help shape and mold me until finally one day, it was in the summer last year, where it was like instantaneous. It was like it
Hmm.
was crazy, but it was after that moment, like, wow, it was the awareness, right? And we were talking about that. Can you talk a little bit about like that awareness?
Hmm. So whatever we believe ourselves to be now is nothing but, like in sports, they say strength and conditioning. When you play a sport in the off season or even during the season, they try to maintain you. In the off season, they really go hard with it because you're not playing. But there's an element called strength and conditioning. And so what that is like you're strengthening your body and you're conditioning it to be able to perform and perform over the necessary amount of time to participate in this thing. Well, our ideas are strengthened and conditioned the same way through repetition. There's no good idea or bad idea, meaning the way it becomes strong in your life or why it is weak in your life is based on whether you have strengthened it and conditioned it or not, whether you have spent time growing and developing it or not. Strengthening and conditioning just comes by repetition. It's not good or bad, right or wrong. It's just what it takes for something to become bigger, more powerful, more prominent in your life. And beliefs are strengthened and conditioned just like muscles are. When you do something repeatedly over and over and over and over, you just get stronger. You get better at it, whether it's muscle, whether it's two times two is four, doing it over and over and over and over, you become stronger. So when we understand, to your point, that it's not a good or bad thing. It's not a right or wrong thing. It's not that something is your fault necessarily, but it is your responsibility. If you don't like something that's happening to you, it's not necessarily, we'll say right now, it's not necessarily your fault, but it is your responsibility. And you have to have the ability to respond. You have to be response able. When we are not response able, it doesn't encourage us to be responsible, to take the state
Mm.
of responsibility if we don't have the ability to respond, right? So how do we develop, like you said, different beliefs, right? We develop different beliefs the same way that we develop these other ones, by consistent application. So whether what we're listening to, whether what we're saying to ourselves, becoming conscious of what it is we are, what is incoming, what is coming into you, what you're listening to, who you're listening to, what you're saying to yourself. All those different things are the ways um, that you that new habits come into you, and the way they become and the way they grow is by, I take something and then I work with it and work with it and work with it, and it becomes bigger, more pronounced, more potent in my life. So that's whether it was with a good habit or a bad habit, so to speak. It doesn't matter. It's not good or bad in the sense of the same thing it takes to have it and develop it and become powerful in your life is the same. So now it's just a matter of choosing. We have unconsciously chosen what everyone else has told us. Oh, you're not smart enough. Oh, you're not good enough. Or, oh, your mom knows better. You don't know anything. You're too young. When you get older, you'll know. Oh, well, doctor knows best. Teacher knows best. Parents know best. Everyone knows better than you. And then you wonder why nobody wants to be responsible for themselves, because they don't feel responsible. They don't feel like they
Jeez.
have the ability within themselves to have a say in their world and to actually create the world, the life they want to live. So I wouldn't take responsibility for it either. I'd say, hey, it ain't on me. It's on God. It's on this person. It's on being
Mm.
a Democrat or a Republican, right? Because we feel like, if I don't have the power, somebody else has to have it. So who can have it to help me? I don't feel that self-efficacy, right? So it's about deciding. It's like deciding when you go to eat. You don't sit down and say, "What do you want to give me?" You sit down and you take the menu and say, "This is what I want to order. This is what I want to have and experience today eating." You do the same thing with your thoughts. And it just takes time and repetition, just like the ones you don't like now.
Talk about that, right?
Yes.
Responsible, response able. Why
Yes.
why is it that a lot of times, especially with no shots towards like the younger generation, but like everybody wants it the easy way, right? And then when I became an entrepreneur, of course, that's how I thought too, until I realized that, like, man, I was naive. I really want you to speak to those who are naive and they don't know they're naive, because what you just said right there, like, they don't have the awareness, right? I guess it's a two-part question. What can you do when you have somebody that you're close to, that maybe you want to start mentoring and leading in the right direction, but they just don't have the awareness? How can you connect with them?
Best thing you can be is an example. Because what did Maya Angelou say? She said, people will forget what you did and they'll forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. Right. And when you are an example, that creates feelings in people. When you can shoot a basketball like Kobe could, it creates feelings in people. Like, I'm out here on the West Coast and we see Steph Curry shooting it from the hash nightly, right? And so the Chase Center is lit up. It's lit like 3 times a week, right? Because when you are good at something, when you have conditioned your body to be able to perform in a certain way, people see it. You don't have to be a basketball fan to know Steph Curry or to know of him. You don't have to be a basketball fan to see, like, man, I don't know much about basketball, but if the goal is to put the ball in the basket, he does it an awful lot from a long way away, right? So the best thing you can be to someone is an example. That's the first thing, because people may not want to like it. They may not like you. They may not want to agree, but they can't deny what they're seeing. When we put a seed in the ground, we can all stand around and argue about what it is. But once the tree comes up and the fruit starts going on there, the argument's over. When the fruit comes up, the argument's over. When you are an example, the argument is over. People may not like you, they may not like it, they may not agree why you are what you are, but no one can deny or defend that you are what you are. So the first thing and the most important thing to always be is an example. And you are an example when you are the thing that you attempt to verbalize. Whether people see it or not, you are it. Because you're it, people then will start to ask you, well, hey, I don't really like you that much, but how'd you get that car? Why is it? How come you're always healthy all the time? There's a flu going around, pandemic. Why are you able to do something? They don't have to like you, but they see that you are something. And they want to know, well, whether I like it or not, he is, she is. So how are you? How did you become? And you become by choosing what you want to be and assuming you are that, walking in that assumption. And you strengthen that and condition that by meditating, by wiping the board of your mind and clearing all thought, and just emptying the drain of all the stupidity and the ridiculous stuff that you've acquired over time. And then by writing on the board of your mind, putting in it what you want to see, ordering in your life. This is what I want to be. This is what I'm choosing to live like and make, and my health or whatever else it is, right? Then you have affirmations. You have things that you tell yourself. Some things are just 2 times 2 is 4. I'm healthy. I'm healthy. I'm healthy. We acquire things through repetition over and over and over and over, right? And the second part of that is, and just affirmation as far as, what are you saying to yourself on a regular basis? Oh, I'm stupid. I'm never going to make it. Man, I'm never going to sell this house in time. Man, it's a recession. I don't think I'm going to sell much this year. Because we don't realize who we are, we don't value what we say. And we don't realize that death and life are in the power of the tongue. We don't realize, boy, that whatever you're confessing and believing to be true, that is actually what's turning your life into that experience, right? And so, just literally, just realizing who you are and thinking properly.
I remember when I became a real estate agent, Coach Lucky, it was hard for me to verbalize my vision and some of the things I wanted to do, because I was so beat up. I was so far away from where I'm at today. And that's why I'm just so grateful for some of my mentors that went before me. Shout out to Coach Jesse Barnes. That was the first person that taught me about the 5 people you're closest to. You choose the 5 people that you're closest to, and then you become the average of that. And I remember when I learned that simple principle, it sparked something in me. Definitely got me on the right direction. Something else he gave me was, some people underestimate, they overestimate what they can do in 1 year, and they underestimate what they could do in 5. Right? Um, those were like 2 things that kind of helped shape like my growth mindset. Right? And I think what I'm trying to point out is, like, my wife, she's in real estate school right now. She's on her road to becoming a realtor. We sat with nine of her classmates last week, and even like the questions, right? It's like how do we prepare any entrepreneur,
Mhm.
coming into entrepreneurship, whether it's real estate, insurance, whatever the case may be, because it's sales, right? It's a numbers thing, it's an everyday thing, it's a talking on the phone thing. How
Mhm.
do you prepare people to begin to start to begin to engage in the process? How
Mhm.
can people start to engage in the process of personal development and maintaining a growth mindset?
Understanding its importance and its value. Because you can't see the mind, people don't know it, they don't study it, and they don't respect it. So because we can see the body, we think we start coming up with these glorious, ridiculous terms like grinding. We start thinking like, well, if I work 50 hours a day and 60 hours a week and 60 hours a month, or 600 hours a month or 28 hours a day, like we just start trying to find more hours in a day, more days in a week, more weeks in a month, and because we respect what we see. We've only been trained since we were at birth, basically, to use one part of our mind, which is the conscious human carnal mind, which is the mind that governs and uses the five senses. So we think everything now is physical, but we don't realize that it's the opposite, in the sense of the physical only comes after the mental. The action only comes after the idea. The action you can see, the idea you can't. There's a metaphorical aphorism that says, behind every good man is a good woman. What that really means is behind every good action is a good thought.
Mm.
That's really what that means. And so people are conditioned, because their bodies are what they see. They're conditioned to think that their bodies can do everything. But our bodies are governed by our mind. Anybody who has kids or knows young people, babies, you see everybody like with these, portable like little playpens, and you just kind of like open them up and you can put the baby in it. So you can go cook, you can go take a shower, you can go do whatever while this baby has a little bit of freedom, right? They can't get out of it. So you know that even if they have a little bit of freedom, they're still governed by these boundaries. What people don't understand is our body is like that baby. Our body is governed by mental boundaries. And as much as we physically think we're free, we're only free to do whatever's in this mental boundary, whatever's in this self
Mm.
concept. So when you said earlier, like, hey, I was talking and it took me a while to get it. And then one day the light turned on for you, it clicked. Right. So what that essentially means was either somebody took you out of the crib or you were able to climb out. So now your boundary becomes from the size of a crib to the size of your apartment or to your home. Now your whole world changes, literally, because your mind opened, your area expanded, right?
let,
So
let me
when we're talking,
let me
yes,
I not cut you off, but listen, I
yes,
got I got some, because you're so right. um like on my journey, um man, it was something like, I'm even trying to just think of it, right? Because you just triggered something. But like for me, where I'm at now is like, if I see it and I touch it, I know I can have it. And
yes, sir.
every time I get exposed to something new, something bigger, just whatever that thing is, whenever I see it and touch it, I'm like, okay, I can have it now. I can have it because I seen it and I touched it. But that's what you're talking about, it being being able to expand your mindset, right? Being
Yes,
able
yes,
to enlarge your territory.
yes.
What are some best practices, Lucky? Like especially for real estate agents that they're their own boss,
Mm-hmm.
they're self-employed.
Mm-hmm.
How can we start really starting to apply these things on a daily basis?
So when I'm helping people and I'm working with people, I really, one of the first things I do is almost like an etymology, right, which is the study and definition of the history of what words really mean. And so a lot of times we're just throwing out words and we don't really know what they mean. And as a result of what they mean or don't mean, we have a concept, right? And so, like, let me just use the word entrepreneur. Everyone, for the, a lot of things I'm saying, I don't have time to go deep into, because this is, this time goes quick. But I want, but I want everybody to kind of understand something. Everyone is an entrepreneur. Everyone. What does that mean? It means I am hiring myself out. I'm loaning myself out for a wage or a salary. Unless you're either an entrepreneur or a slave. There's no middle. So I'm an entrepreneur if I work at McDonald's. I don't have to work there. So if I say I'm going to come to you and I'm going to flip burgers and you say for $4, I'm like, no, that's not going to work. I want 8. And they're like, well, we're not going to give you 8. So you're like, okay, well, no, thank you. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm hiring myself out for a wage or a salary. So it doesn't matter if I'm working for someone else or not, because I still am responsible for what I provide and what I get back. Right. So what I'm saying is that your, let's say it to you another way, your outcome is determined by your income. What's coming in your mind, what's coming in your ears, what's coming through your eyes. Your income as far as salary is also determined by your income. What's coming through your ears, what's coming through your eyes, what's coming in your mind. So people are trying to make more money while they think broke. People are trying to sell more houses while they feel themselves to be unsuccessful. People, so my point to you is that people are trying to change their physical world before they change their mind. Because you said, if I can touch it, if I can see it or touch it, right, then I believe I can have it. But here's the problem with that. Before you got to see it or touch it, somebody had to make it. So then before it was made, what did they use to make it? They had to use something up here, because the first person who created an airplane, who do they copy it from? It couldn't, right? It doesn't work like that. So when people say, I'll believe it when I see it, then you'll never have anything. Because the first time we created an Apple phone, was there an Apple phone before that? So then it had to have been here before it gets here. Right. And so whether that is money, whether that is anything that you can use in your physical senses or taste, touch, see, or feel, is the effect. It's not the cause. The cause of your money is inside. It's not outside. The effect is outside. Poverty is a state of mind. It is expressed physically. That's why when I sent you a message earlier, right? And I said, money is an idea. Wealth is a consciousness. What's the difference? Money in Mexico, right? It's pesos, right? In Japan, it's this, and this is that. Well, in 1300, it was cattle. And before that, it was whatever. But wealth is the consciousness of that. It's the consciousness of prosperity and success. So when you have the consciousness, it's going to express itself. It's going to express money, whether it's in cattle, silver, homes, property. It's going to express itself in whatever way is relevant to your life. Right? Money is an idea. And most people focus on the idea, but they don't get the consciousness. So they're always chasing the idea because they don't have the consciousness. The consciousness will express the ideas. It will express it, right? And if you get the order of operations correct, you'll never be chasing the idea because you have the consciousness. And the consciousness is where the idea lives. What dead person has an idea? Because they're not conscious. Consciousness is what creates all ideas. So according to what state of mind you're in, what consciousness you're in, that's where all your ideas are coming from. So people are trying to change their ideas while they remain in the same consciousness. That's like right now, I'm sure it's probably colder out there than it is out here. But that's like you wanting 80-degree weather in Philadelphia right now. In that state where you live, 80-degree weather is not available. Right? So you would have to go to a different state where that idea is. So when you change your state of mind, your consciousness from poverty to wealth, you are going to create all the ideas. All the ideas of wealth are in that state. All the ideas of poverty are in that state. And what's happening is we are trying to change the ideas of the state, and you can't do that. Like trying to change Philadelphia to be 95 degrees like it would be in July. You not today. It doesn't work like that, right? So saying all that to say, when you change your consciousness, all the ideas in that consciousness already exist. You don't have to make them up. You just go to where they are. So like when people on the East Coast go to Florida and things like that for the winter, it's because it's not personal. It's snowing on everybody in New York and on the East Coast in January, February, and March. But in Florida, South Florida, it's not. So instead of trying to figure out how to get a heating lamp, let me just move to where the heat already exists instead of fighting it. So when you're talking about fighting, that's what's happening. We're trying to create a new experience in the incorrect state.
Jeez Louise, man. Man, that man. I got so much I want to just say, but it's like we gotta have to run this again, man, because like we didn't even get into like the reticular activating system. I think that's where we're kind of heading with all of this, right? To have that consciousness, right? Can you touch on the reticular activating system real quick?
So the reticular activating system is a part of your mind that basically filters your world to constantly reflect to you what is relevant to you. If you believe yourself poor, your reticular activation system is going to blind you to all the possibilities of wealth and success and only expose you to that which reflects what you believe yourself to be, poor. That's all it does. When you decide I want a red car, there's 1,000 red cars, but you don't really see them until you decide. Then
Make
what it does is it
decision.
blocks out all the other white cars and black cars. And even though they're still there, but your mind doesn't focus on them, it doesn't take them in. It only points to you all the red cars because that's now relevant to you. That's what
So
it is.
so it's almost like we gotta make that decision, right? We gotta make that
Yes.
right. So
Yes.
let's say there's some people on here and they're ready to make that decision. They're ready to start working on their mindset. Can you
Yes.
tell the people a little bit about the Mental Lucky Academy and what you do on Saturdays?
So the mental the so just the mental academy is is has always been, but now what I do on Saturdays actually came out of a conversation I had with my brother. My brother lives out there in Easton,
Okay,
PA.
not far.
And so he and I were having a conversation one day, and he said, "Look, man, like because like I told you at the very beginning, I've never been on social media. I've never needed to do advertising or marketing or things like that because I've conditioned my mind for success, and my success is not predicated on anyone else.
Mm,
My success is self-driven, and so then my consciousness finds all physical reflections of that. So I meet the right people who want what I want or who want what I offer. I don't have to go find them. I don't have to go do this or do that. They're drawn to me because my consciousness is always searching out the best way to reflect what I believe to be true. So saying all that to say, uh, so I was having a conversation with him. And he said, "Hey, man, a lot of people would love to hear. Some of my friends or some people I know would love to hear what you have to say. Do you mind if we get on a call?" So we got on a call. He brought some of his people, and it was a Saturday, and so then the next day we did it again. They were like, "Okay, well, can we do it again?" And so we started doing it again. So every Saturday there's a 2 hour call from 7 a.m. To 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So I guess that's like what 10 to 12 your time. And basically, what I do is I help people be what they want to be, right? Meaning, I teach people how to live well by learning how to think, right? You cannot live better than what you think, and
right.
everybody's trying to do it. Everybody's trying to do it. It's like trying to be good without practicing. It's like and a lot of times learning how to think is painful because we have been unconscious for so long. So
Mm,
when you're conscious and you get a paper cut, you can feel it. You're like, damn, that hurt. But when you go, if you have surgery on your knee and they knock you out, they could be drilling in your knee, pulling on it, cutting it, but you won't even feel it because you're unconscious. It's not less pain. It's just when you're unconsciousness, you don't feel pain. You don't feel certain things. But when you're conscious to your point, when you start waking up, you feel all the pain. That's the battle you feel. That's the battle for your mind. That's when you have exposed it to all these incorrect thoughts and now you want to change them and your mind doesn't care about the thoughts but it's conditioned to believe what you have conditioned it to. It's not saying it's right, it's just saying this is what I'm used to. And so now you have to recondition it, and because you're conscious you feel all the pain. You feel the pain of change like a paper cut, right? Even though you didn't feel the pain of ignorance, which was far more painful, like somebody operating on you, right? But since you're unconscious you don't feel it. So basically what we do is on those Saturday calls is I give people information to wake them up. Like I try to use, to your point, as many real life examples as I can so people understand they can see themselves in the information. I want people to be able to take the information and see themselves in it and say, oh, that's me, or oh, that's why, or oh, that's how you do that, oh, that's why I need to change. It's I take the truths wherever I can find it in law, health, history, any of the wisdom books, whatever I can use to pull in to say, this is how you do that. This is what it's really saying to you, and so that people can see themselves in it, so they can learn how to apply it, right, in real life, real world terms.
So I wanted to do something special, right? Because last week I met 9 soon to be real estate agents, right? So I'm thinking about my wife, I'm thinking about those classmates. How can we help them with some words of wisdom to prepare to study for this exam? Because I think it's way deeper than the information, and
Mhm.
actually passing the test. I think it is a mindset thing.
Mhm.
So can you give some advice on that, preparing?
Everything is an assumption. And when you start with the assumption, you work your way backward. When you're in real estate, when a land developer, when the mafia was coming from the East Coast and they were looking at Vegas, it was nothing but dirt. If they were limited by what they see, we would never have Vegas today. You have to have sight is a physical
Mm.
thing. Vision, vision is your true self's ability to create, to see something in your mind that doesn't physically exist. But that's the only way things come into physical existence. If we're limited by what we see, we can never create because sight is not creative, it's expressive. You don't see through your eyes, you don't see, your eyes don't see, you see through your eyes. Your windshield doesn't see, you see through your windshield. So my point to you is that vision is what all of us must have if we want to create anything in our life. If we're limited by what we see, we can never have anything more than what we see. So if they would have came out from the East Coast and just saw dust and dirt and turned around, we'd never have Vegas. Well, if you look at a test and you can't see anything but failure, that's all you're going to get. If you can imagine in your mind being successful, and how can you do that? Well, what would you be if you were successful? Who would you, if you imagine yourself passing that test? If you imagine getting dressed on your first day of work as a realtor, how would you feel? Who would you tell that you passed the test? How would you feel on your first day of being a realtor? If you were as successful as you wanted to be, how successful do you want to be? You have to have a vision. It doesn't have to be perfect and it doesn't have to remain the same, but you have to have something because your vision is creative. Your sight is only expressive. Your vision is creative. And anything outside of you, anything inside of you, you can imagine, you can become. That's how everything becomes. Somebody imagined the iPhone. Somebody imagined a plane. The Wright brothers, who the first people to fly, essentially, their father was a pastor. And he told them that, by creating this plane, you're going to go to hell. Right. So it's saying that to say they had a vision. They said, no, I want to be up in the air. They didn't have anybody to copy. They didn't have other airplanes to look at because you don't need that. Copying is not the same thing as creating. And in your mind, everything is creative. Our body is only assembles and recreates. It does not create. So I'm saying all that to say to you that what can you see yourself being? What do you want to be? If you want to be that real estate agent, cool. Imagine yourself already being that now. I am now a successful real estate agent. Boy, I sell more properties than I can even hardly stand. Like I have customers coming to me left and right. You're creating. That's the same thing when people say when it rains, it pours. Oh man, it's tax season. I ain't got it. We're always creating. We're always assuming and anticipating before things happen. And then we don't always tie those two together well. So we think things just happen, but they don't. They don't. So when you are taking that test, take it as the person who assume you've already passed it today. Assume now that you've already passed it. Imagine what you'd be doing. Go to sleep as the person who passed it. Talk to who you'd be talking to as the person who passed it. Tell your mom or your dad, guess what? I passed. Imagine yourself out to dinner and people congratulating on you passing the test. What would happen to you in your life if you were the person you wanted to be? If you were the real estate agent who passed, what would happen? If you were, where would you be? Where would you go? Who would congratulate you? Get those visions in your mind and you turn the dust of Las Vegas into Vegas.
My God. It reminds me of the other story I heard about. Somebody was sent out to India, like 2 different companies. The one guy, he comes back and he said, "Man, they don't wear shoes out here. It didn't work." Then they sent another guy. He comes back. They don't wear shoes over there. We're killing it. You know what I mean? So I got one more for you too. One more scenario because the catch 22 is, even with my story, right? Like I went through like a dry season in real estate because I had to make a decision, right? I had to make a decision what I wanted to be. Do I really want to go full
Yes.
force into real
Yes.
estate, or do
Yes.
I want to really go full force into the media, right?
Yes.
And I
Yes.
didn't really realize that it was as simple as just making a decision, right?
Yeah.
And all the good things happened after that, right?
Yeah.
But there was a season, right, where I didn't close any deals, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
know there is a lot of agents out there with this,
Yes.
with the market the way it is, they haven't
Yes.
closed deals since, the summer maybe. What advice
Yes.
can we give them, Lucky? How can we help get them back on the right track to believe that, you know, it's all good, right?
Mhm.
People are beating themselves up, that conversation they're having with themselves. So
Mhm.
speak to that one.
A lot of truth, man, is hard to take. A lot of truth, boy, got you looking in that mirror and you look real crazy to yourself. You're like, damn, it's almost like getting dressed in the dark. You're like, man, I put that on. And what that means is that a lot of people put on beliefs that they don't realize, man, it's not going to help you. Don't do that. It says in the wisdom book, right, that blessed is the man whose trust is in God and whose hope is in the Lord. For he shall be like a tree planted by the water, whose roots spread out to the river. And he shall have no fear when heat comes, for his leaf is always green. He shall have no worries in a year of drought, for his tree never ceases to bear fruit. I know that's a lot to take. I know that's a lot to take. But I want everyone who heard that to actually replay this part and sit down and go look that up. It's in the wisdom book of the Bible. But I'm what I'm saying to you is what that passage is saying to you is that, like I said earlier, wherever you put your faith and your trust and your confidence in, that is where your return is going to come from. When you put it in your education, you put it in how tall you're in, you put it in your gender, you put it in your affiliation with I'm a Republican or a Democrat or whatever else it is. That's where your investment is going to come from. And if those fall down, you're in trouble. What it's saying to you is when you decide who you are, that I am successful, that tree is planted in water, it's planted and its roots spread out, it's dug in to the source of its success, which is water. So when heat comes or when drought comes, it said its leaf is always green and its tree never ceases to bear fruit. It means when you establish a consciousness of success, of wealth, of prosperity, of abundance, when you establish that as a consciousness, not as an idea or just a thought or a passing fancy or positive thinking. No, when you spread up, when your roots set in, when you say, this is who I am, it doesn't matter when heat comes or drought comes because you're planted in the thing a tree needs for eternal success, which is water. Your tree never ceases to bear fruit. Your leaves are always green, always positive, never negative. You're always producing. That comes from a state of consciousness. When you are fluctuating in consciousness, your outcomes fluctuate, right? And so many people base their outcomes on the outside, but your outcome is based on your income, is based on what's coming from inside out. So what you do is you establish in your mind what it is you want to be. I am a successful realtor. If that's who you are, that is what you're going to experience. You're Justin. When are you not Justin? Is there like on Tuesday, every other Tuesday, somebody gets to borrow your name? Somebody gets to say, well, you can't have it today because it's a recession. No, you are what you are every day until or unless you change it. When you establish in your mind consciously that this is who I am and I'm blessed, it means blessed means is actually a ritual, like when people do the christening of the babies. When they do that, it's to be blessed is an actual ritual. It means you're coming into agreement with your higher self to be something. It's a ritual. It's an agreement, right? And so when you make that agreement and you're faithful to it, like any relationship, no relationship works if you're not faithful. So when you have a relationship with your conscience, when you say, I want to be this, and you bring what I and this thing is together, you become one and you remain faithful to it. Just like we understand that in relationships, we understand faithfulness is one of the biggest things, right? But if we go out in the world and we forget we're married, or we forget we got a girlfriend, or forget we have a boyfriend, or forget something, and we start acting different, we're going to get caught without the thing we're supposed to be, with this thing we're not supposed to be, and now we lose everything. So when we're not faithful to our consciousness, to our awareness of being, by saying, when I say I'm this, I know the world may not see it, my mind may not see it, but I'm faithful to it. The world doesn't see your wife, everybody, but you're still married. You still act like it. You still carry yourself like it. And because you know you are it. And she doesn't have to be right next to you every day for you to act a certain way. Not if you're in your right mind, right? So it's about being in your right mind, point where you say, this is what I am, no matter what it looks like, feels like, sounds like in the outside world. And what happens is you become one with it, and that becomes expressed in your world, because that's what you're assuming yourself to be. I'm already a successful agent. I've already passed my test. I'm selling 3 homes a month. I'm doing this or I'm doing that. If Justin, to answer your question, if somebody is struggling and they're not selling a home this month, that is absolutely okay. As long as you're not, as long as everyone else has the same problem as you. If 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 not every other real estate agent, if everyone else has the same problem as you, then cool. But if there's one real estate agent that sold a home this month, now it's not a law, it's a you problem.
Mm.
And you have to fix yourself to say, this is what I want to be, right? And if I know that one person can sell, then why can't I? It's not like that, right? So what I'm trying to answer your question the best way is I'm trying to impassionately get people to understand that your outcome is based on your consciousness. It's based on who you're assuming yourself to be, and it's always going to reflect that back to you. And if you don't want to look like that, don't put that on.
Don't put that on, y'all. Sheesh. Coach Lucky.
Yes,
I
sir.
really appreciate you, man. Don't put that on, man. That's the bar. That's getting clipped up. And that's the problem. We put on other people's opinions. We put on other
Mm-hmm.
people's perspectives. We put on
Mm-hmm.
what other people want for our lives. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, man, I remember a time in my life where I didn't have no desire for myself. I wanted to please everyone around me. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And it was like that was such a lost place from where I'm at now with, you know, like Jim Rohn says, don't let people order you around,
Mm-hmm. He said so many wonderful things. He
Yeah,
said,
yeah,
right? He said, learn to work on yourself harder than you do on your job. What do you
yep.
say? If you learn to, if you work, if you work at your job, you'll make a living. If you work on yourself, you'll make a
You'll make a
fortune.
fortune. Yep.
Right. And so I was one of the first people I started with was Jim Rohn. I have one of his books sitting right here in front of me on my left side. But I want to say this before I get off. And it's another hard thing people are going to have to learn. Right. But if you want to be in control of your life, there's some truths you're going to have to start chewing on and digesting. So I'm gonna give it to you so you can chew on it a little bit and got enough time. Because I want to say this before I get off.
Please, please.
Ev- to every individual out there, you are, everybody clean your ears, sit good, don't sit on the ground so you don't fall down. Pay attention. You are the most important person in your life. You are. Your mother isn't, your wife isn't, your kids aren't, your husband isn't. You are. What does that mean? Why is that? If you are, let's just say all things being equal, uh, if I'm a child, my parents are going to die before me. If I'm a child, I'm not married yet. I don't have any kids. And so that means I'm the only one that goes with me through the whole journey of life. I'm not married at 15, so my wife ain't going or my husband. My parents aren't going to be alive when I'm 90 and I'm still alive. They're gone. I don't have any kids when I'm 12, so that doesn't matter yet. So the only person that goes with me on this entire journey, it becomes like math, like a common denominator. If you are the only person that goes with you on your entire journey, how could there be any other part of the equation more important than you? And as a result, if you can master yourself, you can master everything because all of the other parts of the equation revolve around you. You can exist without those parts. Those parts can't exist without you, right? You are who you are right now. Even if you never had any kids, even if you're never married, you still are who you are. When you get kids, and yeah, you pick up titles, you pick up other responsibilities, but before you could pick those up, you had to be awake, alive, and able to pick those up. So when we understand that we are the most important person in our life, then we understand that who we are and what we are is what we have to give, is what we're living and what we're offering to everyone else. So if we want to become a better man, a better father, a better husband, a better wife, a better realtor, a better whatever else it is, we are expressing what we're first experiencing. We can only give what we have, right? So when we grow what we have, when we grow what we are, then we're able to experience more in our own personal life, and we're able to express more to those that we want to give or influence or be an example to. So self-interest, like Jim Rohn said, is
Yep.
not the same thing as selfish. Selfish, I define as just doing things or whatever that doesn't even benefit you and definitely doesn't benefit anyone else. Self-interest is developing yourself in a way where you are more and have more to offer as a result of the interest you take in yourself, as the attention you put on yourself, as the intention you put on yourself, right? So that you grow to the point where you have more, you are more, and you're able to be more, not only to yourself, but to others.
Man, Coach Lucky, man, I seriously appreciate you. And for anybody that's still tapped in, like we're coming up on an hour and 5 minutes, and it seems like it's only been 5 minutes, right?
I know.
'Cause I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I got some more things I'm thinking about. So how's this, Coach Lucky? Like anybody, like give us your feedback. Let's connect again for sure because this was so good. I know my audience is gonna love it and get some value from it. And
Mhm.
at this point, we family, Coach Lucky. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
So
sir.
there's gonna be a lot more of these. Um, I would love for you to just give your closing remarks to I know you gave a lot, but if you could just leave one little nugget on top of all the other nuggets you gave, just something to people that could leave with an actionable step, something that they can apply right away.
Man, if you get to know yourself, you can conquer the world. If you spend some time with yourself, the first bit in the morning, and just talk to yourself the way you would talk to anyone you loved, whether it's your significant other, whether it's your children, whatever it is. Talk to yourself like you're someone you love. Encourage yourself. Believe in yourself. It takes practice. It takes discipline because we've been trained to not believe in ourselves, to talk to everyone else but ourselves, or last. But if you just close your eyes and talk to yourself, if you just close your eyes and listen to yourself, there is a power within you that is making the you that you know in the mirror, that's making that alive. And it has the answers to everything. And if you go within yourself and you just ask by spending time, hey, what's the best way for me to sell this house? Hey, what's the best way for me to present myself? We're all individuals. We don't have to compete. That's where we lose. We create. What is it? What life do we want to create? What experience do we want to create? We're all individuals, so no one is better than you because they're not you. They're not a better version of you. They're not you at all. But if you don't know you, you don't have anything to offer because you're not who else you think you are. You're only you. So spend some time with yourself. Close your eyes and just talk to yourself. Rub your skin, rub your face, love yourself, and you'll realize how much more is in you than you could ever imagine.
Jeez. Well, man, Coach Lucky, seriously, thank you so much. And before we close, I just want to say, honestly, thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to Remax Affiliates. They are the sponsors of this episode. And when it comes to like talking about brokerages and you know, I don't like getting into all of that because I don't want people to think, oh, he's biased or whatever. But it's like I really love what's going on over here at our brokerage. We have one of the best brokers, Joe McCabe, and he really believes in all of his agents. He is only 30 years old. He has a pretty high net worth. He has multiple businesses. And like none of that means anything to me except for the fact that when I signed up to become a real estate agent and I was 30 years old, this man was 28 years old. He already owned the brokerage, the title company, the mortgage company, a home health care company, an airplane, all these things, right? And for me, what it did was, like I was telling you, I touched it, right? I seen it, and it was like, I can never be the same. I can never unsee that. Like, I can never unsee the level of success that this man had. And he's just a normal person though.
Mhm.
There's nothing different about him except for he focuses on the high income producing activities, right? And I
Mhm.
think with everything that you said is if we get to that place where we love ourselves, where we're in relationship with ourselves, we can
Mhm.
attain those things like you
Mhm.
said, correct?
Mhm. Yes, because they're just things. Somebody's got to have them. Somebody made them. Somebody created them. So everything that you want, somebody created out of their mind. So nobody's mind is greater than the other, but some people use their mind better than the other, right? And that's
Gee.
the only difference. That's the only difference. And so if we can understand that, if we can understand that everything we're using, a business is just an idea. And that's why everyone doesn't have one because that idea doesn't appeal to everyone. It's not a living thing. If everybody leaves that building, that's not a business because there's no. Is the building going to do the business? Is the paperwork going to push itself? Is the phone going to answer itself? Right? It takes a living being to make these things alive and for them to have meaning and value. So that means you're more important than the business. And the business is a reflection of you. Your business is a reflection of you. Right. So as you grow, it will grow. You can't lift a weight that you can't lift. But somebody can come right behind you and lift it because they're bigger than you. But the weight is the same. Right. So it's the same thing. If we understand how to grow and develop ourselves, then we understand the business is not bigger than you. It's just a reflection of you. So if you want a bigger business, get a bigger you, get a greater concept of yourself. And that will allow you to have the business you want.
Jeez. Man, listen, Coach Lucky, thanks so much for coming on today.
My honor.
This was fun. This was fun.
Yes,
Shout
sir.
out to Coach Vero. Shout out to the Shopify expert putting this together. And even my relationship with her is just a collaboration. I just love the collaboration. We're able to just flow with ideas, because like you were saying, like as creatives, we got to protect our creativity through um, applying all of these things that you said today, because the
Yes, sir.
creativity doesn't matter if we don't believe it ourselves, right? So,
Correct.
Lucky, thank you so much for coming on to the network, where we believe that your network is your net worth, right? And
Yes,
today, the
sir.
biggest relationship we're focusing on is the one with ourselves, man. So, listen, I really appreciate you coming on. This is not going to be the last, though. You heard
Yes,
me? It's
sir.
not going to be the
Yes,
last.
sir.
So, tap in, y'all, and I'm gonna have below in the links, some links where to find you. Can you tell them where to find you at, Coach Lucky?
Yeah, you can find me at the mental.academy online. There's all kind of information. There's a bunch of other videos that have been done, references for books, way to contact me if you want coaching or me, helping you and things like that. And yeah, that's it on Saturday, 10 to 12. You guys' time out there. We have a free session like this. Basically, it's 2 hours where I'm giving people information to help them learn how to think so they can live the life they want to live. And it's every Saturday. It's free. So if you go onto the mental.academy, you'll be able to register online and you'll get an email and a reminder about when to come on. I start right at 10 o'clock your time, and we're pretty much off right at 12. I respect everybody's time. I respect my time. So I'm not starting at 10:06 for everybody to get in the chat. I didn't start off of social media, so I don't roll like that. I roll. Gate opens at 10 o'clock, and I'm like a tiger. I'm out there. You open that gate, it's on, right? So I'm on your head right off the bat. So so yeah, that's how you get in touch.
Coach Lucky, man, much love, much respect. Listen, y'all, this is the network, man. Tap in, y'all. Subscribe, like the video, share it, and just